Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Steve, not me, but a guy named Steve, sent me a note and said, Steve, I've seen this interesting story out of Massachusetts you might be interested in. And I agree that this is a fascinating topic because I've gotten a lot of phone calls about this, a lot of emails, a lot of comments. People ask me about the situation, especially with the end of lease turn-ins during the modern COVID era. So this press release is from Massachusetts, from the Attorney General in Massachusetts, a press release addressing your rights as a car buyer or seller in this day and age. And it's extremely important because some car dealers, I hate to say this, there might be some unscrupulous car dealers in the world, one or two of whom may be in the US. I don't mean to blow your mind here. And one or two of these unscrupulous car dealers might try to mislead you about your rights during these trying times in which we live. So, press release. A.G. Healy issues advisory for consumers and auto dealers on their rights and obligations on advertising and pricing. So it goes both ways. Dealers have got obligations. Consumers have got obligations. Dealers have got rights. Consumers have got rights. This advisory has been prompted by consumer complaints about deceptive advertising practices by auto dealers in Massachusetts for immediate release from the Office of Attorney General Maura Healy, who issued an advisory to consumers and auto dealers notifying them of their respective rights and obligations when it comes to automobile advertising and pricing. Specifically, the advisory reminds auto dealers of their obligations to accurately advertise prices, honor advertised prices, and comply with consumer lease contract provisions. That last one's the big one, we'll get there. But one of the other problems, and this is always the case, an ad on TV, on the radio, the newspaper will say, this is how much this car costs. You go in, they go, oh, we haven't got that car anymore. Or we had a car like that, but actually there's these other fees get tacked on there. Talked to somebody yesterday who said they went to buy a brand new car and they were told it had $600 worth of add-ons tacked onto the car as it rolled off the delivery truck. They said every vehicle here gets this treatment, costs $600. Huh? Stop the treatment. It ain't worth it. The advisory is being issued in response to a significant increase in consumer complaints to the AG's office regarding unfair or deceptive pricing practices by auto dealers. Consumers claim that dealerships advertise certain prices online only to deny customers those prices at the dealership, and in some cases, even after the dealer had confirmed the advertised price in an email. I've had that comment sent to me so many times, I can't even count. People say, I called, is this the price? Yes. I sent them an email, is this the price? Yes. I've got the email right here. I walk into the email, the guy goes, that's not the price. What does this mean, these words and numbers on paper? Why did you send that? Oh, I was mistaken. I had sales manager. Sun is in my eyes. Oh, boy. Other consumers report that dealers would not honor buyout provisions in lease agreements, which allow consumers to purchase leased vehicles at the end of their lease terms, instead requiring consumers to return their vehicles. That's the scam. Purchasing a vehicle is a significant financial investment for many individuals and families, says Healy. After a surge in complaints to my office, we're making sure consumers are aware of their rights under the law and that auto dealerships know our office will take action against these deceptive sales practices. As a result of the ongoing pandemic, the new and used car markets have experienced an increased demand for cars, coupled with the car shortage, as people turn away from public transportation over concerns about the spread of the virus. Manufacturing has been disrupted by production slowdowns, chip shortages, you name it. This has led to significant increases in pricing for new and used vehicles, creating the potential for auto advertising and pricing violations. The AG's advisory addresses these concerns by reminding auto dealers of their legal obligations, which include dealerships can't refuse to sell a vehicle for the price advertised. It is unfair or deceptive for dealerships to post or advertise inaccurate prices or prices that the dealership will not honor. It is unfair and deceptive for dealerships to make misrepresentations about the value of a vehicle. Dealerships must clearly and conspicuously disclose all included and excluded charges in any advertised price of a vehicle, as well as the expiration date, if it has one. Dealerships have legal obligation to honor the terms of any contract with a consumer regarding the lease of a vehicle, including the consumer's right to purchase the vehicle. Dealerships must comply with existing statutes, rules, regulations, and laws intended to provide protections to consumers. And notice, yes, this is a press release from the AG telling dealerships you have to follow the law. That last one literally says they must comply with existing statutes. But they felt the need to do this. So consumers who believe that an automobile dealership has violated the law regarding automobile advertising, pricing, or lease buyout provisions should file a complaint with the AG's office and also probably contact a local attorney. You can also visit the AG's website. But getting back to the lease turn-ins, that's the one I keep hearing about. And we live in crazy times. I've actually had several people, 5 or 10, tell me that they bought a car a year ago, year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And the dealer they bought the car from, brand new, has called them up and said, do you still have that car? Yes, I do. You're driving the car for the last year and a half? Yes. Bring it back in right now. We'll buy it back from you for every penny you paid for it. We'll give you all your money back. Bring it back in. Because they can take that car with the miles on it and sell it for more than it cost back then. That's how crazy the times are. And I've heard of that from more than a handful of people. And so what's happening is there are people out there who leased vehicles, and the leases are now coming to the end. The lease has a section in it that says, at the end of the lease, here's what you can do. You can turn the vehicle in, lease turn in, walk away from it, and there might be some fees or costs associated if you're over on your mileage or some such, but you turn it in and you walk away from it. And then, of course, the finance company or whoever did the lease will dispose of the vehicle. In the old days, there was always a gamble on the leasing company because they didn't know what the vehicle was going to be worth at the end of the lease, the residual value. And so they would try to guess what that was. And if they guessed wrong, it would hurt them. If they guessed wrong the other way, it would help them. Who'd have thought that you could take a vehicle a year and a half, 2 years ago, lease it, drive it for 2 years, turn it in, and it's worth more than the day you picked it up? Who'd have thunk it? So guess what? They're hoping you turn the vehicle in and walk away from it, when in reality you could buy it for the price that's fixed in the lease for less than it's worth. And I've heard from many people telling me, and it's also been in the news, that people bring their vehicles in, they say, I want to turn in my lease, and they're told, oh, you have to turn it in. They go, well, I want to buy it. No. You can't buy it. You're not allowed to buy it. Times have changed. Rules have changed. COVID. Ipso facto. Your lease is a contract. This is one of those things I have to remind people of because the dealership wants you to forget that. Contracts create obligations and benefits in both directions. That's why people enter into them. And a contract is legally binding. I've talked before about insurance contracts. You've got insurance in your car, it's a contract. You have a lease on your car, it's a contract. Go dig that lease out. It's going to be about this long and about this wide with tons of micro print on it. But you'll be able to find out in there what your rights and obligations are at the end of the lease. It's going to say, here's what you can do. Here's what you must do. But it'll say at the end of this term, you must contact us, make arrangements to either buy the vehicle or turn it back in and walk away from it after resolving any issues with overmileage. Very, very simple. So when you call up the dealership and say, hey, I want to buy my lease out, and they go, you can't do that. You go, yes, I can. I've got the contract right here. What are you, crazy? And if they say, no, you can't do that, well, at that point, you may want to call the AG's office. Now, normally, I'm not a big touter of telling people to call state government because most often, state government does not respond to things. And in Michigan, I had friends in the Consumer Protection Division of the AG's office. I talked to them, and they said, we wish we could do more. We can't. Our hands are tied. There's too much going on. But if the AG's office is issuing press releases saying, we're cracking down on this, and it happens to you, give them a call. Watch. But the point is that you might want to also, you can call a local attorney and ask them to maybe back you up on this one. And you might say, Steve, that might cost me a couple $100. Yeah, but it's probably going to save you a couple $1,000 when you realize that that's what you're going to make on that car when you buy it at the end of that lease, and it's worth so much more than what you paid for it. So it's a rare situation where a lot of consumers just bumbled into the good fortune of leasing a vehicle at a time when car values are skyrocketing. That happened sometimes with real estate. No one expects it to happen with cars. You leased an Econo box 2 years ago and it's worth more now than when you leased it? Who'd have thought that was possible? Seems like it somehow defies reality, but it's true. So pull your contract out, read it, stick to your guns. And remember, by the way, the dealership most likely is not the person who leased you the vehicle. You may have entered into the lease at the dealership, but the Lease is most likely through whoever you're making your payments to, probably a finance company. So in the old days, you might have leased a car through GMAC. Now, of course, I believe they're called Ally Financial or some such. But the point is that, Ford Motor Credit, okay, they lease, they handle the leases even though you get your vehicle from a Ford dealership, okay? So if the dealership gives you a hard time, call the leasing company. Call them directly. Go, look, I want to buy my lease out. The dealership says I can't. What say you? And if they say you can't, go again to the AG's office or call a local attorney. But this is such a big problem right now that a state like Massachusetts, their attorney general's got to issue this press release to let you know, by the way, you've got rights, you've got obligations, whether you're a dealership or a consumer in a car purchase these days. I hear a lot of stories about the pricings, issues jumping around, add-ons, forgot to tell you about the double secret fee that we hid in there, that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's one thing. But when they say you cannot buy out your lease, new rule. Really? Why is it not in my contract that I signed, that you've held me to all these months? If I missed my payments under the contract, you'd have punished me. Now I want to use the contract to my benefit and you won't let me? That's insanity. So, great story from Steve. Thanks a lot, my friend. Press release, AG Healy issues advisory for consumers and auto dealers on their rights and obligations on advertising and pricing. Questions or comments? Put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. To move, to breathe, to fly, to float, to gain all while you give, to roam the roads of lands remote, to travel is to live.